Yeah, record. All right, so keep that in mind. If you're asking any private questions, personal questions, you might want to wait until later. All right, should we start or should we? I was going to start at 8:05, 9:05. Yeah, we got 1 minute. What should I do for 1 minute?
Dance.
Why don't I direct your attention to the graduation photos? So we actually just had graduation on Thursday night. We had our kind of last day of school yesterday, and the idiots that we are posted orientation at 9 a.m. the next morning. So you can imagine what a last day of school looks like with kids running around and going crazy. And just so you know, we also decided to paint yesterday. So this is new construction that was done and we never painted it. And one of the kids said, you can't bring new parents in and have it looking like that. And so in addition to all the other stuff, we actually painted. So you can see we're not quite done. We haven't put the bottom strips on yet, but.
So he's missing one key piece, and the key piece is the kid said, you can't do that. We'll take charge, we'll paint it. They all went home. So you guys, if you don't know what that's like, you will. So then we were all here.
Yeah. They went home, and then they also, before they went home, they stepped in the paint and then walked all over our Yeah, nothing changes when they enter into high school. Just more of the same. Only they're a little bigger,
Exactly.
a little louder. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So I'm Neil McCurdy. I'm the principal, and I'll let Mr. McClendon introduce himself.
I'm Daryl McClendon. If there's students here, everybody calls me MC. So if your student goes home and says MC, it's not being disrespectful. That's what everybody calls me. And I'm the assistant principal here and athletic director and chief business officer. So if there's anything that has to do with money, like you want to give us money, I'm your guy.
And then Ms. Heath, why don't you introduce yourself?
I'm Ms. Heath. You guys can all call me Carrie. The students just have to call me Ms. Heath. And you probably have already talked to me or gotten a tour from me. I'll probably be your main point person for most of your time with staff. So.
And then we also have online, we have Mrs. Gunn. So let me switch over to the Zoom, Ms. Gunn. You want to introduce yourself?
Hi, forgive my wet hair look this morning. My name's Laura Gunn. I'm this year's president of the SET Parent Association. So I'm here to give you a little blurb about that when when I have my 2-minute window. Is this it, or should I wait?
Let's wait, but make sure that you remind me, because I know you said you had to leave in a half hour. So so I'd rather do a quick little introduction to our school, and then we'll turn it over to you.
You bet.
Right, but don't let me forget.
Okay.
But the annoying thing here is I was going to have, while we're just doing the talky stuff, you guys are going to keep seeing the same photos because every time I take it back here, I have to start the slideshow again, and we're seeing the same photos. But anyway, so first of all, the assumption is that you guys are all already committed to SET and that you know everything about our school. And so this is kind of a time for final questions and for us to kind of help you figure out what, first of all, reconfirm why it is that you chose our school. So we'll do a little bit of that. So we are going to sell you a little bit in case you're not sold. And then we are going to answer a bunch of questions. But first, we'll kind of give you a sense. We're assuming that, how many of you are 9th grade incoming parents? Okay, yeah, so normally that's the bulk of the parents coming in are 9th graders. And so we'll spend a little bit of time talking about what the schedule looks like for 9th graders. But we'll also do a little preview of what the future years look like as well, in case you're not a 9th grader coming in. So I guess the very first thing that you guys might be wondering is why SET? And the reason I've got the graduation showing on the TVs right now is we had a parent who was with us for 4 years and loved our school. The kids did really well at our school. and saw our graduation, and he said, "Oh my goodness, I had no idea how much the staff cares about these kids." And he said, "You have to figure out a way to show the graduations, to get every parent to see the graduation so they understand what's really happens at our school." So basically what happens at our graduation. So first thing that's really important is it's at Spreckles. And so that means that there's unlimited seating and anyone can come. And so we don't have to worry about, selling tickets or anything like that, which is awesome. The next thing is the graduation is a 2.5-hour graduation, but we only have 50 students. And so it's the same length of graduation that you're used to seeing at every other school. The difference is that every one of the kids has at least a 1-minute speech given to them by somebody in the staff that really loves them and really cares about them. I should say that all the staff care and love them, but there's usually one that there's just a special bond between the staff member and the student. And so that makes a huge, huge difference in just the feel of our graduation. So nobody is bored in our 2.5-hour graduations. So I think that's pretty much the kind of what sums up what our school is about. Our school is about ultra personalization, looking at every student as an individual and figuring out what makes the student shine and identifying where their passions are and helping them actually love school, care about school, want to come to school, and hopefully thrive in school. So one of my biggest frustrations as an educator is I know that there are so many different kinds of and the unfortunate thing is that in the academic system, we basically focus on one very specific kind of intelligence, and most of the people kind of get through education, and they, even if that they might survive, but they're probably not thriving. And there's a few people like that top 10% of the students, they're the ones that are actually thriving and they love high school, and they, they go on to do amazing things in college because college looks a lot like that. And then life happens, and maybe that's what life is, or maybe not. Usually it's not. Usually there's lots of different skill sets that you need in life. And so our kind of goal is to figure out, we know that it's super important for kids to do well academically. So don't misunderstand me here and think that I'm saying that academics is not valuable. I'm somebody who thrived in the academic setting, and I know that we need academics. But the goal really should be to make sure that every student recognizes that just because they might be struggling in a class like math, or maybe they struggle with writing, that doesn't mean that they are stupid and that they can't do anything and that they're not going to be successful in life. And so that's kind of the starting principles for what our school is all about. And I, my argument always is that everybody's got something that they're good at and something that they're maybe not so good at. And we want people to feel comfortable expressing that they're not good at something, trying it and failing at it, and then trying again, because that resilience is ultimately what is so important in these high school years, is building that resilience, because life is hard and you're going to need that resilience later on. So a couple things about how we actually go about doing that. So passion is really, really important at our school. We have passion projects. We have flex time where kids can actually work on passion projects. And what's so cool about our passion projects is that the students, it's not a requirement. There's no grade associated with it, and they don't have to do it, and yet they all do it. And the reason that there's no grade associated with it, I always feel like, oh man, we should be giving them some kind of credit for this because they're doing such amazing things. But the reality is, the minute that you start to assign credit to it or pay somebody for it, then suddenly it's not a passion anymore and it becomes work. And so it's always a little bit of a challenge trying to get the new students to appreciate that, hey, this is actually time for you to do something that's semi-academic. It doesn't have to be fully academic, but semi-academic. That's kind of the thing that you're doing on the weekend. but now you've got all of the resources of the school, you've got advisors, you've got other friends that you can do these things with. And so the classic example, let me actually run and get this. So this is something that I'm so super proud of. We have had a writing club, a creative writing club, and we've had students who during passion time have been writing. And it's one of those things where you talk about it and you can't see it and you don't really know if it's happening. And they just published a journal that has 31 pages of writing that these students all did, all on their own time, no credit. This is not something that they were, doing for a class exercise, and it's absolutely beautiful writing. And so that's one example of what students can do with passion time. Some of the other things to just kind of look around the room here. All schools got a lot of COVID money, and I'm super thankful that our board agreed with us that we should really be using this last set of COVID money rather than using it for, more PPE, which we got so much PPE. Every school's got so much PPE. Am I using the right word?
PPE, yes.
Yeah, the personal protection equipment. There we go. So we've got that coming out of our year. So we've got tons and tons of that. And so what we used that money for was to figure out what the real damage of COVID was to our students. And we identified that it was really that everyone basically became insular. Everyone turned to their screens, and students have forgotten how to actually interact with each other and engage with one another. And so we have Chalk Space over there, which is our collaborative art wall. And basically we do challenges each week and say, hey, the theme this week is do a collaborative, country scene or something like that. And the students all draw a collective picture. And what's so cool is we created the space, we gave them chalk, and the students came. And I think there's probably a video on our website, or maybe at least photos of just like a whole collection of kids all drawing on the board on the wall at the same time. Another example, so the chessboards that you see out. So you put a chessboard out on the table, and guess what? Kids start playing chess. So as long as you put something out there, then they will try it. We've attempted to do a Go board there, but nobody knows how to play Go. But eventually, hopefully there's some students listening to us who will learn how to play Go. So right now it's turned into more of a fun game of let's peel off the Go pieces, the Go board pieces. But and then over there, we have the looping station. And so we're like, okay, we did something for the artists. Is there something that we can do for all of our musicians? And so we have a looping station there where you can basically, do it. It just uses a mic. So we've got some beatboxers, we've got people who sing, and we've got some who play guitar, and you just, create a couple bars of something and then loop it, and then somebody else adds on to it. And so we just got that a couple days ago. So, but already yesterday we started hearing people use it. And so, so really cool. Of course, we've got for our athletes, we've got sports, and so we bought, made sure that we had enough basketballs. We've obviously got the ping pong table because I'm a big ping pong fan, and so ping pong is something that makes sure that the ping pong table is always set up and that we've got plenty of paddles and balls. And yes, they get torn up, but we just buy new ones. It's not really that expensive to buy new paddles. So it's more important to have these things be accessible to the students so that they actually use them rather than having them locked up in a cabinet. We do actually have a cabinet with some things locked up. So we do have board games and cards and things like that. So during flex time, if anyone wants to do those kinds of things. But the idea is to try to get kids off of their devices and actually interacting with each other. And it seems to be working, which is awesome. So,
Lori, do you want to pass that to Lori?
yes. So let me hand this off to Lori. I'll switch it over here. And we'll pin you, Lori, so you can be big on our screen here.
Thank you. I'll just start talking. Welcome to SET. My name's Laura. It's Lori or Laura. I answer to both Gunn. And I'm next year's president of the SET Parent Association, which we're affectionately calling SEPPA. We are in a rebuilding year for sure, because COVID sort of wiped out all the upper leadership of the prior SEPPA. So there's not a lot of institutional knowledge, and we're rebuilding from scratch, but we're all already working on some good community building activities for next year. This past spring, we had a all school picnic in the park with parents, teachers, and kids. It went over really well. Everybody came, and it was a great chance to just bond and relax in a casual setting. We're hoping to have at least one of those events again this coming year, and possibly two. That replaced our kind of more, the more traditional spring fundraising gala that you may have had some experience with in the past. And we're hoping to have one of those too this coming year. We're also trying to up our swag game a little bit. We've got t-shirts, and we're working on car magnets and planning on having a graduation sign fundraiser in the spring. And we're working on ways to improve communication among the community, because right now there's a SET parent Facebook group that we feel like, possibly isn't reaching a lot of the parents. So we're working on coming up with ways we can have a directory and a way that we can reach out to families directly every week or couple of weeks or every month, just to keep everybody apprised of what's going on. So we're really excited. We have a lot of energy, and I'm going to put my contact email in the chat so that you can reach out to me. I'm also the parent of a boy who just finished 9th grade at SET, so he's going into 10th, and I hope that you will feel free to use me as a resource. Thanks.
Thank you, Lori. Does anyone have any questions for Lori before she leaves?
What is the parent association? Is that like a PTA?
Yeah.
And so is that open to all incoming parents, or what's the process for that?
Yeah, you're just, as soon as you're a SET parent, you're in. There's no, you don't have to apply or pay anything. You're just, we're kind of collectively all the parents, and we would love to have as much participation as possible.
Fundraising goes primarily towards academics or
Oh.
social fundraising.
Were you able to hear that, Lori?
Is that me cutting out or somebody else?
Are you still there?
Yeah.
Did you hear the question? The question was if fundraising goes primarily towards academics or fun, or what are you guys thinking that you're going to use any money raised for?
Thank you. I didn't hear that question. Thank you. We're hoping to use a lot of it for fun and community building events, but we also have come up with teacher grants in the past, where we reach out to teachers and say, what do you really need for your classroom? And teachers have submitted proposals saying, boy, it would be really great if we had, a large BattleBots arena, or additional, like if I had a little more money, I could do this really cool art thing, or whatever supplies are needed for the teachers. We're hoping to encourage the teachers to be really creative and thoughtful about letting us know what they need, and then raising the money to make that happen for them.
Any other questions for Lori?
Are those the monthly board meetings, or is that different?
No.
Is there a meeting that is monthly, or how often does the parent association get together?
We get together at least monthly, usually more if we have something coming up that we need to plan. And we right now we communicate that mostly through telling Neil about it, and he includes it in his emails to the community, and also putting it on the Facebook group. But we're working on trying to find better ways to let people know. You have another question? I can see someone with their hand up.
I have a question. Was the picnic the only activity you were able to do last year with the kids?
It was, yeah, it really was. We did that was the only large scale everybody activity, but ASB also did some stuff with the kids. And they operate separately, although we're looking forward to collaborating more with them. There was a dance for the kids in the fall. I think there's probably going to be, the dance was around Halloween time. And so that wasn't the only event that the kids had, but it was the only event where parents, kids, and teachers all came together and did something for the school.
Yeah, thank you for that question. So we've, like every school and everyone, I guess, is, we've been struggling with COVID, trying to make sure that we could keep our doors open and keep the kids in school. And so we unfortunately had to kind of put a barrier and keep parents out of school last year. We're hoping that that's all going to be different this coming year, and that we can finally rebuild the parent community as well. So there's also, in addition to the dance, there was also a prom, and then grad night. The seniors went on grad night. We had a couple of field trips that we were able to still manage to do at the start of the school year. We had the class field trips. So something that the ninth graders can all look forward to is we have a walk-in in the school on that very first week. And that's a really good opportunity for our ninth graders to all get to know each other. And that's usually where all the friend groups originally get formed. Yeah, Lori, should we let you go, or do you have any other?
I just wanted to say, I see in the chat that somebody wrote email list is great. What we're hoping to come up with is an opt-in option for everybody in the fall, so that, assuming that we have 100% buy-in, hopefully from all of you, we can put together a directory that at the very least has everybody's emails and cell phone numbers, so that, if a kid wants to invite some other kids to a party or whatever, we have a way to reach out to the parents, because I feel like, especially in ninth grade, we haven't had a lot of success with the kids trying to organize that on their own. I think they still need a little bit of parental steering on stuff like that. So we want to be able to reach out to you directly, and hopefully that'll be a good way to do that. That's all.
Yeah, and it's actually really nice having younger student parents in the set PA right now, because those are usually the things that kind of get missed, because the older students, they don't have any issues with that. They've already got their friends, and so they're kind of on their own. And so sometimes the needs of the younger students are forgotten about, and so it's really good to have that insight on our set PA right now.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Please email me if you have any questions at all. I'm happy to be a resource for you.
Thanks, Lori.
Thanks, Lori. Carrie, can you give me screen sharing rights?
Yes.
If you right click on share screen.
While he's doing that, is there any other questions? Do you guys still want to see Dr. McCurdy dance or sing, anything like that? Please say no to that. I've heard him sing. You don't want to do it. That was a good question, the last question that they were asking about different things that we have here. It's that if it were a normal non-COVID year, a couple years ago, we had a Halloween haunted house here that the kids all put on, that we had parents that were scared. So it was absolutely awesome. And we open it up to other people in the neighborhood, the apartments and stuff like that. And so that was great. We definitely normally would have 2 or 3 dances besides the prom. So we at least have 2. He used to have on his computer a picture of our dance that we had. It was our homecoming dance. And it's basically, we don't have football, of course, but it's volleyball basically. And he used to have a picture on his computer that showed all the kids, and our dance was outside. We had, my favorite line was this young lady who brought a friend from Ramona High School, and she said, "This is what a dance should be like," which was absolutely awesome. She goes, "Ours sucked." So it was cool. The kids all loved it, and everybody was outside. They decorated ASB took care of it and decorated the whole outside, and it was absolutely great. Kids were talking about it for quite some time. One of the things which I'm sure he's going to talk about is the freshman retreat, we call it. Your child will tell you when you go home, I don't want to go to that. I'm telling you now, they're going to regret it. Every kid that goes to that absolutely loves it, right? They have a good time. So, and he's brave enough to stay overnight with these kids. Anyway, that's my tap dance.
Yeah, so I've got a incoming ninth grader this year, and she is super nervous about this retreat. So I know that you're going to be hearing a lot about, oh, I don't want to go, but everyone winds up going, and they all wind up loving it. So make them go. All right, and actually, so one of the most important things, let's talk about that retreat. So the reason that we do it, and the reason that we do a sleepover, and the reason we do it here at school. Is one, the sleepover part is we've got to get outside of our comfort zone. And so because one of the setup goals, you'll hear a lot about these in the future. The setup is basically what we want our students to look like by the time they graduate. And the S stands for social responsibility. The E is effective leadership. The T is tenacity and grit. The U is uncertainty is opportunity, and that's the one that we're working on right now. That's that sleepover is it's uncertainty. It's uncertain, right? It's risky, but there's huge opportunity when you take risks. And so getting the students to appreciate that. And then the P stands for passion, purpose, and performance. And so one thing that's really cool about setup is all the students actually know what it is. So for years, we used to have, every school is supposed to have these things, they're called SLOs, student learner outcomes. And for years, it was one of those things where whatever WASC, who's the accrediting commission, whenever they come, we all as a staff like try to memorize what our SLOs are so we can, pretend like we're actually doing those things. And when we came up with setup, it's like, this is integral to our school now. And the students do reflections of knowledge at the end of the school year. And everything is organized around setup. And you'll see in a slide in a second, you'll see that we also have the students looking at, it doesn't do any good to just talk about social responsibility if you're not actually doing something about it. And so the students very early on come up with a goal for what they want to achieve in terms of social responsibility for that school year. And then the reflection of knowledge at the end of the school year is about talking about hopefully achieving that goal and setting your next goal for the following school year. And our seniors do a final ROK, reflection of knowledge, where some of them present to the entire school and they do the same exercise, reflecting on everything about their academic experience, and not just academics, everything about their school experience, because a lot of things that happen in school are not academic. And it's a time where it's actually my favorite time of the year, because you just see the incredible growth that these students have gone through in the 4 years, and it's just laid bare for everyone to see. And my favorite part of it is the senior camping trip. We have usually about 10 or 12 students who do their reflections of knowledge around the campfire. And so this last one, the students were doing their reflections of knowledge all the way up until about 12:30 that night. And so it was really, really cool. And you'd think that they'd all want to be doing their own things and running around, but they're all just glued to listening to their fellow classmates tell their stories, which is really cool. So today's agenda, so we've already made through most of it. So that reintroduction to SET, what makes us special. So that was how we started. And so next we're going to talk a little bit about what to expect during your 9th grade year. We'll look at just kind of the immediate timeline. So we've got this meeting. There's going to be a, what do we call it? The orientation. So this is not an orientation.
This is a new parent.
This is new parent orientation. Okay, that's why I was confused, because I was like, this is an orientation. So an orientation where basically we've already met as a staff at that time, and we've really kind of identified what our goals are for the next year. We get all the parents to sign all the paperwork and all that good stuff. That all happens right before school starts. We'll talk about scheduling, because you guys are probably interested in knowing what classes you're going to be taking. So we'll talk about that. I put it on here. This has to do with scheduling, but we've got a little bit of a complicated way that we run our classes here. And so we'll talk about that in a second. And then for those who are not ninth graders, we're going to look forward to see what you can look forward to in the years ahead. So we'll see all the classes and kind of the plan for the classes that students wind up taking, including college classes and this idea of passion projects. And then the bulk of this, though, will be questions if you guys have any questions. All right. So let's talk a little bit about just kind of what happens between now and when school starts. So we do have an official start day for school. It's possibly different from what Carrie told you guys, because there was a moment there where we thought that we were going to have to start on a Thursday. And in order to get enough school days in, and then we realized that we were miscalculating things, and so we can actually start on the following Monday instead. So, so it's the 29th of August is the first day.
You're welcome. Or I'm sorry, there's two more days with your kids.
And so sometime before that Monday now, so we just switched this, so our dates are not quite set in stone now. So it's usually the Friday or the Thursday before that, that's when we'll do the orientation. And so trying to decide if this is going to be an orientation where parents come in or whether we do a Zoom-based one. Zoom has been really, really nice for certain things, and so we might make it be Zoom. But it's also really nice to see all of your guys' smiley faces. Kind of not used to having that happen. But we also need to be cognizant of, if we're going to have a big COVID spreading event right before school starts, that's probably not a good idea either. So we'll have to see where we are with COVID at that time. So that's the kind of immediate timeline. You will get an email from Carrie at some point over the summer with the schedule for your ninth grader. You'll see in a second that it's mostly kind of fixed for ninth graders, but there are some choices. And the main reason is because we spend a lot of time. I should actually talk about this. We spend a lot of time trying to personalize every student's schedule. And what that means is that everybody's got their own path through our educational environment. And so we've got some students who actually got two students who, as sophomores, just completed calculus. And so they're going to be taking college math next year. And we've got some students who, sophomores, maybe they've failed algebra twice. And so they're still taking algebra, right? And so it's a very personalized approach to scheduling, which means there's a huge amount of work for us because we've got to figure out what classes to offer, how many students are going to be in the classes, and make sure that we're accommodating every possible variation in everybody's schedule. But it's worth it because otherwise students feel like they're basically just grouped in, lumped in with everyone else, and they're just like sheep moving through the educational environment. And so even though it's a huge amount of work for us, it's worth it. Just know that all of this that I'm saying, you're not going to feel it that very first semester because it's too much work for us to do this with the students who we don't even know. And then the other scary thing that winds up happening for us is that we have people who make decisions during the summer, and so we spend a lot of time meeting with the family and getting their schedule all set up, and then they wind up deciding not to come to set. And so that's really, really frustrating for us. And so we've got three basically different options with a little bit of choice in there. And just know that the second semester is when the students get a lot more choice.
That comment didn't apply to anybody in here because all of you guys, your kids are coming to say, yeah, that's for other.
Exactly. So let's actually, so let me talk about the 4x4 block schedule first. So it's 4x4 block schedule, except it's not. And so what a 4x4 block schedule is in other schools, so like Kearney is a 4x4 block schedule. So basically what happens is you take double block classes, but you take fewer of them at the same time. And then in the spring, you switch to another set of 4 classes. So that's you take 4 classes, then you go to the next semester and you do another 4. And so maybe you're taking English in the fall and you're taking history in the spring and not English anymore, right? So that's basically the idea of 4x4. So the reason ours is not quite a 4x4 is because it sounds like a really great idea, and it's great for us in terms of scheduling. We've got all kinds of like room to make sure that we can get the kids scheduled the right way. The problem is that if you take algebra in the fall and then you don't take algebra in the spring, what chance do you have of actually being good at geometry in the following fall, or even worse, the following spring, because maybe geometry was not in your schedule that next time. So you could potentially go for an entire year without math, and that is a disaster in the math world. And so, so we have a modified 4x4 where we've got some classes that are year-long classes, and those are our math classes. And so your algebra class is going to be double block for the entire year. It's a little bit more expensive for us in terms of, you know, teacher time. So if you think about, you know, if a teacher is teaching double block, then that means that there's a class that they're not teaching. And so it's a little bit more expensive for us, but it's worth it because this is how you actually make sure that students have math and are able to succeed in math in future years. So, but it gets a little confusing, especially when you're going to look at your schedule and you're going to say, wait a minute, how come my student's not taking English? Well, they're probably taking English in the spring. Not probably, they will be. you don't get to not take English. So let's take a look at what this looks like for you guys. And this is super small, sorry. Can I zoom in on this? No, because the minute I try zooming in, it's just like. Okay, so if you have trouble reading this, this will be emailed out to you, so you'll be able to see it. So we basically have three pretty equal groupings of students: earth, wind, and fire. So intentionally trying to find some language that doesn't indicate like some kind of like, you know, grouping that is not intended to be meant by the name. So if you have A, B, C, then you're in the C group, then maybe that's bad. So it's basically just three things that are all equal. The real difference, and this is something that you guys want to be thinking about, notice that we've got the algebra ones in yellow there. So there are a couple of opportunities for students to accelerate in math. And before I say anything about this, know that even if you are not accelerated, you can still graduate with taking calculus as a senior. And so that is usually the goal. That the highest math goal in high school is usually to finish calculus. And even if you are taking a year-long algebra class, you can still wind up taking calculus your senior year. So you're not being excluded from anything by taking year-long classes. Just keep that in mind. So one possibility is that you take algebra 1 and you take it year-long. And so we usually have a lot of parents who come in and say, hey, my student took algebra in 8th grade. And back before the Common Core world, that was usually like, okay, sure, we'll put you straight into geometry. And it's a very rare student who actually has learned enough algebra in 8th grade to be successful in all their future classes. And so there might be a little bit of repeating, but it's worth the repeating. So with my kids in the summer, when I wanted them to get a little bit of extra math support, I would always have my kids do the work on the summer packets from the prior year to reinforce rather than trying to get ahead, because one of the mistakes that we make with math is that we try to like learn the next thing as soon as we can, but we've never really established that foundation, and that foundation is super critical. So if they're a little bit bored retaking algebra 1, I promise you that it is going to be for the greater good. Those students who want to accelerate or feel like they've already got the algebra knowledge, we have the WIND group, which basically does algebra 1 in the fall as a semester. So we've crammed the material down into one semester, and then they jump into geometry and do geometry in the spring. And so really, this is not the reason to choose WIND is not because you're a superstar in math, but because you like to work harder, because you're doing twice as much work in the same amount of time. And so you're going to have to work that much harder. And so that means that you're going to have more homework and all those good things. So, so just keep that in mind. Everything else is pretty much the same. So one of our favorite things about SET is that we have Miss Geis, who I wish that she was here to sell herself to you guys. She is the most amazing teacher of the year last year. And teacher of the year
For all charter schools throughout San Diego, not just our teacher of the year.
Yeah.
So it's like 2,000 teachers.
So absolutely phenomenal person, phenomenal teacher. And she teaches a leadership class that all freshmen have to take. And this is basically kind of sets the tone for everything in our school. And you as a parent are actually this year, because remind me to talk about virtual. So you guys are going to be the first parents in a couple of years who don't get to wake up in the morning and have your day brightened by Miss Geis, because she's not going to be virtual and you're not going to get to see her at home. But you're gonna hear the things that the students are talking about, and you're gonna wish that you could actually be in her class too. I love sitting in her class. If I ever need a little pick me up, then I'll just go sit in her class for a few minutes. So anyway, so all students, all freshmen get her twice. They get her once for leadership and then once for strength of mind and body. And so strength of mind and body counts as a PE credit, but it is so much more than just PE. So this is again, just Miss Geis part 2 is really what that class is. And you'd be surprised for if any of you guys remember what your PE classes looked like, with some kids dressing down and some showing up to PE in their high heels. So Miss Geis, every one of the kids is there doing sit-ups and push-ups because she's Miss Geis, and why would you not do those things for her? So pretty cool. But it is so much more than just exercise. It's the reason we call it strength of mind and body is because she's talks about mental health. There's like a whole bunch of stuff that happens in that class. All right. And then there's still plenty of opportunity for students to take electives. We are, sometimes I like to use the term elective first. We're an elective first school. And so some of the idea behind having students have agency in terms of choosing their schedules, that also means that they get to choose their electives that they want to do. And so I teach computer science. And so I have some students who take my class for 4 straight years, 4 semesters, 8 semesters. And there are other students who I never see, and they're the artists and they want to do art the entire time. So we do have requirements. And so you do have to have a technology class at some point, but it doesn't necessarily have to be my computer science class. It could be space science or biotech or something else. And so when I say that we're elective first, we talked about passion earlier. Our teachers also need to have passion as well, because if you're teaching the same thing over and over and over again, it can get boring after a few years. And so we want to make sure that our teachers are also passionate. And so our teachers are the ones that come up with the electives that they're going to teach. And it's usually something that has to do with their passion. So a good example is our biology teacher. He's a biologist, really interested in space science and rocketry. And one year there was a whole bunch of students that they all wanted to go to Mars. And so they created a space science class, and that's now one of our most popular classes where the kids build rockets. And let's say another thing quickly about that class, because it's another thing that I think is really kind of critical to understanding SET. So most schools, you go buy a rocket and you paint it, and then you stick in the little motor, and then you light it, and then it goes up, and it's perfect every time. Our school, you are building the rocket from scratch. You are building the motor from scratch. So they're actually like mixing all the chemicals to make the actual motor, and then they light it, and maybe it doesn't go up, right? So if you don't do it right, then it doesn't work. Maybe it goes up, but it doesn't go straight, and takes a left turn and plummets back to Earth right away. That is part of the learning process. we want students to fail because that's ultimately how you learn. And so you'll hear that a lot at our school is kids, finding ways to get out of their comfort zone, do things that maybe they struggle with a little bit, but that's where all the learning happens. And so, so back to electives though. So that's space science is one example of that passion one. Another one that is one of my favorite ones is Miss Lennon, English teacher. So every high school you need 4 years of English. We've got kids who take like 6, 7, 8 years of English, mostly because they want to have Miss Lennon as a teacher again. And so they take classes like debunking Disney, which is an extra English class. And she was super excited, came to my office one day and said, I've got this idea for an elective, hear me out. And I was already at yes when she said I have this idea for an elective, because I could tell she was super energetic and passionate about it. And so she spends 15 minutes describing what this debunking Disney class is going to be like. And I said, if you can get kids in it, go for it. And of course, the class is full because everyone wants to take Miss Lennon, and they have a lot of fun debunking Disney. So, trying to think of.
Let me add one thing. When he was talking about the rocketry class, one of my favorite things happened probably 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago. We're on the news, and our rockets were going to be shot off live on the news, and they didn't go off. And so all the kids ran out there to the rocket, debugged it, and the news were just basically going kind of crazy. Holy smoke, these kids are fixing this. And then it went off. And they said that they had gone to other schools where the school bought the rocket and stuff like that. These kids knew what the problem was and fixed it. So that's one of the reasons why we do it that way versus, oh yeah, we'll just buy a rocket and shoot the rocket off. No big deal. But those kind of things are absolutely great. I was just saying to these wonderful young ladies here debunking Disney. I jokingly say to Ms. Lennon, that's my least favorite class because I have a granddaughter. What are you doing to my granddaughter? All these things, they're all true, people. They're all true.
So let's move on a little bit and go to the next slide, which is what a grad plan looks like for a ninth grader. And so this is a ninth grader who passed all of her classes. You can see the geometry or science, global studies, those at the bottom there with only one check mark. So grades are not finalized yet. So that's why presumably she passed those classes. And so you can see that she took a whole bunch of classes in ninth grade and passed them all, which is awesome. And so 10th grade, you'll see that in high school, you do English 9, 10, 11, and 12. You do 4 years of science, so earth science, then biology, then physics, and then chemistry. Social science, we've got global studies, then world history, then US history, and Gov Econ. And in the math world, you're basically getting all the way up to pre-calculus. If algebra 2 in the 11th grade is kind of the normal approach. Sorry, pre-calculus and calculus. So pre-calculus and calculus, that's the other example of the semester-long classes. So we cram those in. Usually the students who are at that level, they're perfectly happy to move at an accelerated pace. And so that's why we're able to still fit in calculus, even if students start with a full year-long algebra class. So this is an example of kind of the normal path. You'll see that we've got everything that's red is basically something that has not happened yet. The ones that don't have the little delete symbols on them, those are all required classes. So you can see that students need to have an art elective at some point. They need to have a technology elective. They need to take Spanish 1 and 2, or some kind of foreign language. Hopefully Spanish. That's what we offer at our school. And then that's it. So there's a lot of room for electives. And what usually happens in most schools is that the students are intentionally slowed down because they're trying to treat everybody the same. And they need to make sure that there's an English 12 class that the students are taking when they're seniors. So we've got lots of room for acceleration. And so if you look at this grad plan for a 12th grader who just graduated. So this one, what did she do in her 12th grade? Well, it looks like she didn't really take many classes here, but you scroll down, oh no. Ah. So you look down here at the bottom, all of these TC classes, this is transfer college. So she took a history class in college. She took this other one. I can't see, another history class, history, other history, college visual arts. And then anyway, you guys at home can read it, but there's a whole bunch of college classes that she wound up taking and getting dual credit for all of those classes. So that's another potential path through our school. Students who take a whole bunch of classes early and want to do something completely different their senior year can also do that. So you might have noticed when we looked at this one, notice that there was a whole bunch of passion project and college elective things that are happening in grade 11 and grade 12. And so a passion project is basically kind of a independent project that the student is working on. They don't have to be in class, and they can be doing something like maybe creative writing. Maybe they're working on a novel or something like that, and they just want to sit quietly and just work on that novel. And they've still got an adult who is supervising them and supervising their progress through it. But it's kind of like what you wish you had when you're taking college classes and you could actually do something, do your own research. That's kind of the idea behind the passion projects. So we have passion project time allocated for the underclass. I've been trying really hard not to use gender specific words like that. So I tried not to use freshmen and underclassmen. So underclass person, the younger students. And so now I forgot what I was going to say. Anyway, I'll think of it later. So before we move off of schedules, does anyone have any questions about schedules? Because this is complicated, and I know that it's complicated, but don't worry about it. We will help you through it.
So when do the kids pick the schedule? I
So,
mean, if Earth, Wind, or Fire, do they get to select that?
so if you have a preference right now, just shoot an email to Miss Heath, and she'll try to honor the preference. But it's kind of, you know, it's usually there's a parent who says, hey, my kid is really, you know, worried about spending too much time in math and wants to accelerate. And we do a test in the very first week just to make sure that the kids are appropriately placed. And so if there's somebody who, the parent who said, hey, my kid is ready for this accelerated math, and then we look and like, yeah, maybe not, then that allows us to have a conversation in that first week about whether this is the right placement for that student. So there'll be a little bit of switching in the first week, but for the most part, you guys know your kids pretty well. And it's usually pretty obvious whether somebody who's a go-getter, wants to do you know, loves doing homework and loves school, has thrived in academics so far. That's the kid that should probably be in wind. But also know that you can potentially burn a kid out. So we've got somebody so we require 3 years of math, and 3 years of math and math all the way through 11th grade. And so we've got a kid who accelerated, but doesn't really like math. He took Algebra 2 just now, and he came up to me and said, well, do I have to take a math class next year? I was like, yeah. And so now he's taking pre-calculus, and he doesn't really want to take pre-calculus. So he would have been perfectly happy ending his math career at Algebra 2. But because he accelerated, now he's going to have to go a little bit further. So I'm okay with that. I don't mind him learning more, but he's not happy with it.
Is the math the only thing that's accelerated in the WIN group, or is it all of the classes?
It's just math. Yeah.
Just math is
Yeah.
the only consideration.
Yeah.
Can I ask how you teach English? So is there literature and a language, or is it all combined? I'm not from the, you know.
So it's all combined.
Okay,
Yeah. Yeah. So there's usually they're reading books in 9th grade. They're writing essays. Mostly it's high school English is about analysis and about writing.
okay.
And I always think of 11th grade English as kind of like the one that usually really kicks the kids in their rear end, because they've got so many essays that they have to write. And by the time they're still doing the same amount of writing their senior year, but now they know how to write, and now it's easy for them to write the essays. And so that 11th grade is usually the time when there's like, now it's really piled on, and you got to actually be able to write a lot of analysis, analytical essays.
So the 4x4 block schedule, one semester is sort of considered a year.
Mhm.
It's like Spanish 1, if you take that once, that's your year. It's like I took the whole year of it, right? In
Yeah.
high school for one.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the interesting thing with Spanish is, so if anyone's interested in doing another language, it's a little risky to do this. But you can take another language at Mesa College. You can't take any classes at Mesa College until you've completed your sophomore year. That's the kind of the community college rules. And so you could take, this happens every year. We've got somebody who takes Japanese, for example, and it's a lot harder because now you're in with college students who probably already know Japanese, and you are now taking that class. But one semester of college class is equivalent to 2 years of high school language. So you can really accelerate by doing that. But
Don't wait.
But yeah, so if you're really into languages that much, you probably should do Spanish first and then do Japanese.
So is the language practice of 2 years? Is that the?
Yeah, 2 years is required, 3 is recommended.
Okay.
Yeah, so most colleges are looking for a third year.
Is it only Mesa College, or can they do Miramar or City or any other community colleges?
So we have a deal with Mesa College that allows our students to take 4 community college classes their junior year and 6 community college classes their senior year. Normally, City College, Miramar, and Mesa, that's all part of the same collection of San Diego Community College district, I think is what they're called. And so they normally have a requirement that you can only take 1 college class. And so we've worked with them to say, hey, we've got all these kids who are super accelerated. These are going to be great students for your classes. They're going to up the bar in your classes. So I really think you should allow our students to take more. And they said, yeah, we agree. And so they've allowed us to do that.
So it's okay in any other campuses or just Mesa?
So Mesa is who we have the contact with, but in theory, it should work at any one of those 3 campuses.
We're just right next to me.
Okay, and
That's why I was asking.
yeah, no, I think you'll probably be fine, but there might be, you'll be experimenting for us to see whether that really works there. Some students, before we had this deal, they would be clever and they do one at Grossmont College and they do one at Mesa, so they'd be able to get 2 at the same time. So Grossmont's a totally different district, so you can go there and do whatever you want over there. And they actually seem to be a little bit more lenient over there.
So the cool thing about the Mesa College classes or community college classes is for you parents who think about, oh my goodness, I got to pay for college in the future. You take these basically for free while you're in high school. You could be pretty much done with your freshman year of college while you're graduating from high school.
Yeah, this student right here is basically done
Going in as a
with
sophomore.
their freshman.
No money.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but Miramar College has a really great entrepreneurship program as well, too, doesn't it? Are you guys connected with them at all?
No, I did not. I was not aware of that. So,
I'll see if I can get you contact.
yeah, please do. Thank you. All right. So while we were looking at while we were looking at core competency, which is what was showing you guys the grad plan, just wanted to give you a sense of what your kind of picture, your window into your student is going to be. And so we've got this program called Core Competency. This is the dashboard that you're looking at. And so there's a couple things I want to, better for me to, I guess I'll stay here and I'll just point with my mouse. So you've got the most recent report card on here. We've got the schedule. So course scheduling happens here. So we can see that the student has already picked her classes except for a 3rd period. So she's got to figure out something to put in her 3rd period class there. Her current grades. And so all of our teachers use Google Classroom, but Google Classroom is not friendly with parents. Because Google is worried about privacy of each individual, including a kid who is a minor of youth, but they actually won't show you stuff. And so we've basically taken what's in Google Classroom and reprojected it onto here so that you guys can actually see what's going on in the class. This is not a live window, so I can't click on this, but you click on any one of these and just like you're probably used to, you can see all of the assignments and what's outstanding and what's already been done. There is a, so any emails that I send out wind up down there in that most recent messages. So if you ever missed an email, you can always see the messages that got sent out. If your students involved with tutoring, then we've got the tutoring log with kind of messages from the tutor. Students are hopefully in those graduation photos, you might have seen some students wearing red cords. So those students, some of them had 2 red cords. So for every 150 hours of community service, you get an additional red cord. And so the state requirement is 15. And so we try to get our students to do much more community service. So anyway, all those hours get logged on here by the student. And then eventually, when the student is working on a passion project, we've got passion project goals and then passion project log entry so that we can actually make sure that the students are making progress on their passion projects, because this is a lot of kind of undirected time, but we want to make sure that we all know that if we don't hold people accountable, then all of us get a little bit lazy and maybe don't do exactly what we wanted to do or what we hope to do. And so this kind of helps them stay a little bit more accountable. The grad plan is on there, so you can always be aware of what classes are coming up for a student. And then we've got, while I'm talking to you parents, attendance is super critical. So that's how students are successful in schools, when they actually come to school. And it's also the way that every public school gets funded. So a lot of people don't realize this, that it doesn't matter whether we've got 220 kids, if we only have 180 kids coming to school, that's the money that we get. We get the money for the 180 that come to school. And so every absence, even when you think that you're excusing your student from school, is not really excusing the student. So the kid has to be on campus in order to actually, for the school to actually get attendance. So one way that we try to help motivate people is just by showing them what the goal is, what the student's current attendance is. And so this particular student, I chose her for a reason. She has an attendance of 99.47%. So she is awesome. We love her. And in her last 10-day average was 100%. So she's continuing to be great. And then we talked about the setup goals. So this is just kind of a cool example of a freshman who's already kind of set up some goals. And so here for social responsibility, her goal is to find volunteer work 1 day a week at an animal shelter by my home. So how cool that as a freshman, she's already being encouraged to actually think of the goals for each of these things. And so each one of these, effective leadership, uncertainty is opportunity, and passion, purpose, and performance, each one of these, the student has come up with a goal for how she's going to do better in those areas.
And each one of you parents will have a different login than your child. So don't let your child come home and go, oh, you can't really log into that. They do that every year. So you can log on. You can see what they're doing. When they say, oh, I don't have any homework and I did all the work, log on. Why didn't you turn this in?
So that kind of sums up the things that we wanted to make sure that you guys knew. If there's any questions, and this can be like for the next hour, if you want to ask questions, that's totally fine. What time is it? Because I want to make sure that I'm being respectful of people's time. 10:07. So let's kind of plan on going till 10:15 as a whole group, and then feel free to just start moseying on out if you are bored and you've had all your questions answered.
I have a question about passion projects. So Liam was interested in potentially starting a group and, getting a collective together around a specific topic. Like, not sure yet, but he's really excited about it. So what's the process around starting a passion project and getting a group together?
Yeah, so sometimes that's the tricky part is finding people that have that same interest. But I love it when we've got somebody who's like super gung ho, because then that exposes other students to something that they might not have known was going to be their passion. And so there is passion time that's allocated each week. And so Liam, was it? So what Liam would do is during that passion time, talk to his advisor, possibly talk to me. And one of the cool things this year, one of the things that we did with the COVID money is we now actually allocate money to passion projects as well. And that is a little bit more of an encouragement. It's like, hey, you want to do something really cool. Maybe your parents aren't paying for it, but the school can pay for it. And the amount of money is based off of what the impact is going to be on the number of students in the school. So if you're just doing it by yourself and no one else is ever going to see it, then maybe it's only going to be like $50. But if you're able to get 20 people all working on the same thing, and this is going to be something that's going to last for years and is going to improve our school, then maybe you can get a couple $1,000, right? So that amount of money is going to depend on your ability to convince other students to participate with you. So there'll be, once you get to know other students, you'll kind of get a sense of what their interests are. And usually if you're passionate about it and you're super excited about something, and like maybe you're a musician and you're over there using the mixer all the time, and everyone's hearing you do really cool things, I'm like, I want to try, then maybe we buy a second mixer because now there's more people who want to do mixing, right? So that's usually how it works.
Except for it's loud and then this heat tells you to turn that on.
Yeah.
You guys do computers, you issue computers?
Yes.
Buy them a computer, how does that work?
Yeah, so every kid gets a Chromebook that is theirs to take home, and when they graduate, they give it back to us. So,
And they can keep it over the summer.
Yeah.
Graduate or do something crazy like go to a different school. Who would do that?
School actually had our son keep it because he's still gonna be living in the district, so
yeah.
we get it back to the district.
So we're a different district, and so you really probably should give it back.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can't actually make gifts public dollars, and so once they're no longer part of your district, then it really should go to another kid in that district.
Yeah. So you guys are not considered San Diego Unified then?
So actually, you were the one who asked the question about the board, so I meant to actually talk about that a little bit. So we are a independent charter school. We are given basically a charter or a license to operate for 5 years at a time by San Diego Unified. So it's kind of this awkward relationship with San Diego Unified where they oversee us and they can determine whether or not we get to continue to exist as a school. But there's also the slightly competitive nature between us and San Diego Unified, their choice, not ours. And so it's a little awkward that we've got that kind of overseer relationship, but that's the way that all charter schools operate in California.
We'll give your child a computer.
No problem. We don't want there.
And so regarding the board, so we have our own board. And so a good example is if we have a teacher that we think is perfectly qualified to teach a particular subject, our board can override the credentialing requirements for that particular class. And so sometimes it's a little weird, like you've got a social science teacher who happens to also be, a video producer who is perfectly capable of teaching a video production class, but because the social science credential is not good enough to be able to teach that, then in a normal school that wouldn't be allowed, but our board can override that, which is good. Yeah. Sorry, we'll go. I heard her first and I saw you.
So do you follow San Diego Unified's schedule for holidays and school closures? My second question is who and how do you guys nominate your board?
Okay, so good, two really good questions. So the first question, so we just found out that San Diego Unified is playing games with moving the school year up earlier. So we've always pretty much followed them. We have two weeks of spring break instead of one, and we usually start a week before they do. And so, but for the major holidays, we kind of have it aligned as closely as possible to San Diego Unified. I don't know that we're excited about starting at the beginning of August. So.
No, we're,
August 12th and 2
no, that's not happening. Anyway, we're starting. The other thing too, during the summer, one of the things that's kind of different than like San Diego Unified and some of the other school districts, we have 2 straight weeks where the teachers come in, we have professional development. So that's one of the reasons why we can actually have orientation there, because the teachers have been here for 2 weeks. They're preparing, they're doing everything that they need to do, and also a bunch of PD stuff. We know when we're starting school. It's August 29th. We're not going to go back and make it August 12th and have all of our teachers quit. So we try, as he said, we try to follow them. We get 2 weeks off in winter break. We get a week off at Thanksgiving. We don't get those awkward weeks during the school year that never made any sense to me. We get spring break, 2 weeks. So that's basically how we're going to do it this year. I mean, this year also school starting earlier, or excuse me, later. It starts at 8:30. We normally start at 8 o'clock, and that's statewide. We have no choice there, which means we don't get out until 3:30 this coming school year. Let me say one other thing since I have the floor. It's going to be hard to take it away from me. One of the things that I think is one of the best things about our school and our secret sauce is basically not just personalization, it's the fact that we actually know every single kid in the school. She knows every kid in the school and every parent in the school, right? So we can see a kid when he or she walks in and we know something's wrong, and we can say, hey, you doing okay? And then they'll lie and say, yeah, sure you are. Go to my office. And being able to have those kind of conversations with kids, you know, we really do take a holistic approach with all of the kids. I asked these two young ladies here, why would you go see assistant principal or vice principal of school? Why would you guys go see him? Because you see, all you guys have been in trouble. I knew it. I knew it. Probably 90+%, 95% of the people that come to see me just come talk to me. They just want to have my view on whatever. I mean, I have people coming in there asking me, how do I break up with my boyfriend? How do I break up with my girlfriend? Those conversations I will not relay to you guys. That's between me, them, and the 6 walls in my office. There are 6 walls in my office, by the way. So being able to do that, being able to have that trust of the kids is very different. Someone on the outside looking in can say, well, you can do that because you only have 200. We said 220, but we're gonna have 245 next year. I guarantee you, if we had 500 kids in this school, we would still know every single kid in the school. And we know that's our secret sauce, and we use it to our advantage.
So you asked a question about the board. So one of the things that I love about our school is that we are super transparent. And I don't know if we have any current parents who can attest to that, and if there's anyone that's on right now. But we have people who come to the board meetings and they watch our board meetings. I'm not on the board, by the way. I can't be as a executive director. But we have made adjustments to our bylaws to make sure that the board forever stays the way it is now, which is super, super transparent. And so in order to become a board member, there has to be a vacancy. And we've had experience in the past where once board members were on, they never termed out, and there's no way to ever remove them from the board. And so our current bylaws, every person who is vying for a board position has to go through a independent nominations panel that is established. And so even current board members have to still go through that nominations panel. And so we have a board meeting next Wednesday, actually, where we have 2 board members who are terming out, and both of them made it through the nominations panel and are being re-nominated. And so then the board votes on whether or not to accept those nominations. Yes.
I actually have 2 questions. First one is community service encouraged or required for every grade? And then secondly, I just wondered what the ratio is of teachers to students.
So 15 hours is the requirement by the state law. 150 is what we push for and what we hope for. And so usually students wind up somewhere in the middle between 15 and 150.
That's from 9 to 12.
9 through 12, yeah. So the 15 is that's crazy small when you think about 4 years. It's like, yeah.
Don't underachieve.
What was your second question?
Just the ratio.
Oh, the ratio. So it's basically 12.5 to 1. So almost every classroom has 2 adults in it, and we use a co-teaching model. And so it's not just somebody sitting there with their feet up watching the class happen. This is actually 2 active participants who are co-teaching, and it's different depending on the dynamics of the individuals in the room. But there's some who are actually like both, bouncing ideas off of each other and collaboratively running the classroom. Sometimes it's, the teacher of record is the one who's maybe delivering a lecture, and the other person is wandering around in the classroom and making sure that kids are taking notes and helping them if they have any individual questions. So, yeah, and there's 25 students max in every class. So it's pretty hard to hide in our school.
We also have individuals who are academic coaches, that they're also in the classroom helping the kids with their work. Every morning, lunch, and after school, a teacher's on help desk. So when the kids say, well, I don't understand math, we have the help desk for math. Kids don't like to give up their lunchtime, but there's a teacher who's available during lunch to help them out with that. So you have all kinds of support here at school, but then remember, they're high schoolers. So if they feel like I should be hanging out with my friends outside. So tell them their support.
So just a sec, if you're online, feel free to send a chat or just unmute yourself. We've got a question here in the audience first, but then I'll ask if anyone online has a question.
Just curious about the typical amount of time you see for incoming ninth graders spend outside of school on work activities, whatnot.
So I think that the answer is the right amount of time. And it's, I'm somebody who's super frustrated with, the keeping up with the Joneses and just working your tail off because everyone else is working their tail off and then having no room to actually be a kid and to do other activities. So the assumption that schools make is that academics is everything. And so if you're not leaving time for baseball or something else, or family, the theater, then what do you're just, you're basically pulling all passion for life out of that student. And so I can tell you so we also don't micromanage our teachers. And one thing that I always say is I would never want all of the staff to be a clone of me, because I have, my approach works with some students and I see other approaches work really well with different students. And so in life, you see a lot of different kinds of people, and we want to make sure that our students are exposed to a lot of different teachers and with a lot of different styles. So my personal view, so I teach computer science and I never give any homework. And the reason I don't give homework is because I hope that the things that I'm doing in class are going to lead to the students spending a whole lot of time at home working on my projects. And some do and some don't, and that's okay. There's, that same approach can't work in math. You can't say, oh, you gotta be passionate in math. We have to actually force kids to do some practice math. Otherwise, they're not going to learn it well enough. And so, so in general, there's time in school to get a lot of the work done. If the kid is not using that time wisely, then they're going to have more homework than somebody who's used the time wisely. So I'd say,
I think the majority of the teachers give them time in class to get the work done.
Yeah.
If your child's coming home and saying that they have to be up till 3 or 4 in the morning, that's because he or she wasn't getting it done during the school day.
Most of the teachers say kind of what you did, that they don't assign homework, but whatever they don't finish counts homework.
Yeah. They have the time.
any questions online? I can't read that.
It's fine. She's just saying it's awesome.
Okay. You can always say that. Anyone else want to say that it's awesome? Your question?
That with entrepreneurship in it, I haven't heard you talk about any entrepreneurship.
Yeah, and I think the reason for that is what we found is that entrepreneurship is more of a mindset, and entrepreneurs just kind of by default don't really want to be taught about entrepreneurship. And so we have, we kind of dance around it. And so we've got leadership, we've got the passion projects, and the passion projects, in order to get money, they have to do a business plan in order to actually get money. So, but we've keep like trying, thinking about having build a lemonade stand. Everyone has to be an entrepreneur and has to come up with a business plan. And it's never just, the kids don't sign up for the classes. They're not interested in that kind of class. And even the entrepreneurs at our school aren't interested in it because they're so far beyond that, right? They don't want to be taught how to open up a lemonade stand.
Can I add that?
Yeah.
Couple of things. I mean, there's many different forms of entrepreneurship. It could be social entrepreneurship, could be financial. There's so many things that you can do. We've had kids actually start basically charities and things like that, which is absolutely awesome. We had one kid who graduated a couple of years ago who started one business, sold that business, started another one, started hiring students at the school, was probably making more money than most teachers were, right? Because he had that opportunity to go do these things. So we try not to say, okay, you've got to take, entrepreneurship 101 or whatever, but there's a bunch of teachers here who have an entrepreneurial background too, and they'll help these kids, but we want to make sure that the kids have a passion for whatever it is they want to do.
And just to add on to that, so the passion projects can lead to some kind of entrepreneurial enterprise, but it also doesn't have to. And we don't want to have that be a requirement and then kill the passion. So we kind of dance around it. It's certainly a part of kind of the ethos of our school. That vending machine back there is actually a student created a business in order to be able to get that vending machine there. I put a whole bunch of roadblocks in front of this kid, and he jumped through all of them, including incorporating. And he gives the school 10% of all profits. And so he did this all on his own. I thought that it was never going to happen, but he made it happen. And it's kind of interesting because I go through different ways of thinking about this. If you guys have been on a college campus recently, there's all the booths and all kinds of things being sold, and I would love for that to happen, but then there's also the money exchanging kind of things that have to happen. Anytime there's any money that exchanges hands in a public school, that now becomes taxpayer dollars. And so I haven't quite figured out how to really handle that. That's why I made him actually incorporate, so that all the money was actually going through him, and then he was giving us the 10% profit. And so that might be the model for what we do, is maybe we make it really, really easy for the kids to incorporate. And maybe that's where when they're at that stage, maybe that's the direction we're gonna take. So if you're interested in it, please, give us ideas for how we can expand that side of the house.
Our daughter is interested in playing volleyball in the fall. Does she wait till school starts?
No.
To practice start?
It's going to actually, volleyball is going to actually, practice is going to begin before school starts. You'll get an email from the coach saying, hey, anybody interested in going out for volleyball, will let me know. So last year we started it at school because we had a new team and a bunch of new players and stuff, and I knew the parents didn't know us. But this year we have the number of kids returning. So, and our practices for volleyball, basketball. So our sports we have really quickly is we have boys and girls cross country, boys and girls basketball, boys and girls volleyball, boys and girls track and field. We do not have football. We will never have football. Insurance is ridiculous, besides the fact that we don't have a place to play, and equipment and stuff like that. We used to have soccer a number of years ago. Kids weren't committed. I've said as soon as kids are actually committed to doing it, we'll do it again. Soccer was our most expensive sport. Needless to say, we've not had soccer again. So we usually send out emails and stuff and saying, hey, this is what's going on. I'm drawing a blank. I want to say it's like the 15th of August, just off the top of my head, that we're gonna have practice start, and practices are over at the Sierra Mesa Rec Center.
My son is interested in golf team. Where do you guys, how does that work?
Well, we haven't had a golf team for a number of years. If he is interested, one of the things that we need to do is find a coach, because in the past we've had a parent came in and helped coach the team, and so we'll do it and we'll field the team, but we gotta make sure the person has interest.
Is that a uniform school?
No. So.
I wish I could answer that. I was gonna say yes.
So interestingly, so if you think about kind of who we are as a school, I used to battle with my wife all the time because she grew up poor, and she always thought that was one of the equalizers was students being, forced to all wear the same clothing. And so she always approached it from that angle. And she's actually, as she's gotten to know our school more and more, she's realized that, our school is about individuality. And uniform is kind of the antithesis of individuality. And so, yes, there's, and what's interesting actually is, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but it's not like the 80s where you had to wear super expensive stuff in order to be the in kid. Now, the more holes that you have in your pants, the cooler you are. So I don't think there's not necessarily it probably is even more expensive for them to now have to buy another set of clothes. That's now the uniform. But the individuality side of it is just so important for us, and that form of expression, the ability to express themselves is really critical. So.
Probably in the orientation, you'll get a copy of the parent and student handbook. It's 57 pages. Just go to the thing about dress code and read that. So, but anyway, it details, here's what's appropriate, inappropriate and stuff. And so when you're wearing something that doggone straight you shouldn't wear, you'll probably come talk to me. So.
All right, I think we're good. Thank you. We'll stick around if you guys have any personal questions. We'll stick around for a little bit. If you're online, probably gonna be hard to get a hold of us, but you're online, so you can always just shoot us an email.
Talk about our hours during the summer.
Yeah, hours during the summer, so 9 to 1. You'll usually find somebody here on campus every day. After that, we go home.
It's somewhat sporadic, but send an email. If you try to call here and nobody answers, send an email. And even though we're not here, we'll see the email and respond to it. We always say this every year. It doesn't really happen. We go dark in July, meaning no one's here. So pretend like that's true. But then back in August, he's here, I'm here, she's here. So just know that if you guys do it during July, we may not be as prompt. Getting back to you.
Kind of stalking the calendar, waiting to see the dates for spring break. We can maybe start trip planning.
So we do have a calendar now, so we'll make
Oh,
sure
is
we.
that now? Okay.
Well, it's
No, it's not
probably,
on there.
probably not up, but we do have one.
We have
set,
one.
Okay.
So.
And then will there be any parent meetings through the summer with the, I forget what it's called now, the PTA basically?
So they wanted to collect email addresses so they could get a hold of you guys. But I guess that didn't happen.
But I think it would be the same as us. They're probably not going to do anything during the month of July and then start doing something starting in August, because that's when we start getting ready to come back. So.
So one thing that is going to happen over the summer, so this is a new addition that we did. We put that wall there to make it so we could actually close off the den. Luckily, we haven't had too many people using the restroom, but whenever the blow dryers, hand dryers turn on, then we can't hear anything in here. And so we're putting some barn doors on there. So I'll make sure, I'm going to send out an invite to any students who want to come help me make some barn doors. So if anyone wants to help with that, that'll be a fun little summer project.
What time do you open on school mornings? I know you said you started at 8:30. What time will the classrooms be open?
So it was 7:15 for an 8 o'clock start. So it'll be whatever that is. 7:45. Yeah.
7:45.
And then we stay, so school ended at 3 and we were on campus until 4:15, guaranteeing that we were on campus until 4:15. So now it'll be 4:45.
But there's always kids here late, and then some parents have to drop their kids off early, so somebody usually arrives fairly early.
Yeah.
No, there's almost always someone here. We kind of jokingly say that 3 of us sleep here, so. But don't count on it, especially on a Friday.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate you coming.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.